Curt LeDuc in off-road. The guy is just the Iron Man.
He's got, you know, tons of wins. He's been from East Coast to West Coast, and he's done everything. You know what I mean? Curt LeDuc's the legend of off-road racing.
He's the wily old veteran of the Pro 4, I think. You know, I think he's probably the guy who might have invented Pro 4 somewhere down the line.
Well, Curt's always been a great ambassador to off-road racing, whether it's short course or desert. He's always constantly trying to put his input in and to make the sport better.
He's that one guy that I think if anybody had to start with a pile of parts and metal and then race, he would be the guy that would win.
If you're going to race against Curt, when you raced in Crandon or any place, he didn't get out of your way. And you better get out of his way when he comes, because whatever he built was a tank. He was going to go through you. He wasn't going around you much, but Curt never gave too many people slack.
He's going to race you the way you race him. If you want to get into it with him, you probably picked the wrong dog, because that dog will hunt.
He can act like he had an attitude out there. If everybody's driving up and up, you know, he's a square shooter as he comes. But he can play with the roughest guys out there. He's as good as any of them.
I don't know his kids as much as I know Curt, but I tell you what, he's a good old boy. And even though everything's big time now and you got Monster and Rockstar and everything, but you go over there and watch Curt LeDuc, and they're, I mean, he's out there and he's taping wires together. I remember in the spring run, he needed a big cable come over and you know, I asked my dad, and they're taping it, and he's a good old boy. He's kind of one of the originals.
I always remember one time Curt LeDuc, I just started racing out at Jim Gunderson's shop, and Curt LeDuc come along and he gave me a set of headers for my 4-cylinder and did some other things with me. We looked up to him big time, you know, and look what he's brought to off-road racing.
We did our first soda race out here at Glen Helen, and we just did a bunch of local races around here with our frame rail Pro Light truck, and we were just, you know, trying to gain momentum and get sponsors here and there. I had a normal job that I went to every day, and we did some races down at Estero Beach in Mexico and stuff, and Curt LeDuc was there, and he invited me back to Crandon one time with him. You know, he said, you need to come back here if you're gonna go anywhere with this. Well, he actually did more than tell me to go back there. He asked me, he actually helped me go back there. You know, gave me some money from his sponsors, I think, and let me use his semi, whatever I needed, you know, under his awning, and he did that for a couple of years for me, I think.
Well, we traveled over 1,000 miles coming here. It's like racing the Baja 1000 just to get it. We drive it non-stop, takes us 24 hours, and it made me work for it today, though.
When I got out of high school in Massachusetts, I started a four-wheel drive company, a four-wheel drive business, and to advertise my company, I went racing. Eventually heard about a race in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, called the Memorial Day 100. It was supposed to be a 100-mile race. Yeah, I went there, raced a few years, started to become competitive in wheel-to-wheel racing, and heard about this legendary track up in Crandon, Wisconsin.
Curt LeDuc, I think, come here in 1984 for the first time, and he brought a truck to race. I thought it was a spaceship.
You know, we got a bunch of guys together, and we took the LeDuc van and hauled our race car out to Crandon, stayed at Jack Flannery's house, slept on the floor, and there was this great track.
Here he come, little short guy. You could tell he's made out of gristle.
I unloaded my four-wheel drive car. Jack Flannery was the king of Crandon. He owned it. He owned the lap, he owned the records, he owned the trophies. So we came out there, went out there, ran our qualifying lap, set quick time, went up in the announcer stand and was getting interviewed, and everybody got a second shot at it. Jack went out, took his second run, and nobody was able to run any quicker than I was. And it was my first time at this track, and I was, you know, I was egged on by the crowd, and I said, well, I could go faster. I didn't have a really good run. And so I got the usual Crandon boos. I mean, this is Jack Flannery.
Like Jack said, you just almost had to hit him, you know. You'd go to pass him, he'd get over, and he'd go this way. Like Jack said, shit, he was...
And this is just my interpretation of what happened that day, but I went back and made my second run and went quicker, you know, set a new track record, won the race, won the 6-foot tall trophy, and was hooked on Crandon from that day forward.
What makes it special? The crowd, the heritage has been around so long, and we won it last year. We're defending champs. We got to come back.
He's a legend around here.
That's a Crandon trophy right there. So I think this is the last big trophy I won at Crandon before I moved to California, 1985. And as you can see, it's still taller than I am. I think they gauged it for Jack Flannery. Like I said, it's taller than I am. And this was for World Championship Off-Road Race Brush Run 101. Overall winner, front engine. So that means I beat old Faye Stesney with his classic cars too. So I got in trouble with those guys one time because I said they asked if they could run the classics with us trucks at a race in Lake Geneva, and I said I didn't spend $1,000 to drive out to a race and to race against a car that cost $1,000, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was Faye. He reminds me about it every time I see him at Crandon.
Hey, you're able to find a fire suit for your dad?
Yeah, dude, Simpson stepped up and built him a fire suit in 3 days, like embroidered, stitched, sized, everything. So hooked him up with a helmet and driving shoes. Ringer stepped up with the gloves and all that stuff. So yeah, he was bummed that it got stolen, and it was in my truck, so I felt responsibility.
Now there is a theory that he just didn't want to drive it again because it was all bloody.
Well, actually, he lost it in the slip and slide at Crandon. He took it off at the slip and slide, and we haven't seen it since. So I don't know, naked slip and slide, Crandon.
Your dad at the slip and slide. Anyway, oh, that's a bad picture.
Yeah, just grease them up and send them.
Went down that straightaway one time flying. He knew his front end was wobbling, and over the bank he went and rolled it. You know, I mean, he knew there was no good, something was wrong. You know, and he said, "Car is wobbling down." Boy, you ought to cut them trees down in that hole. I said, "Curt, that ain't the racetrack. I got trees. Jesus Christ, you can't go 100 feet off here, 50 feet off, and not hit a tree. I can't cut them. I ain't cutting them all for you guys. Keep it on the track. They're already 100 feet wide." Yeah, he was just a good shit.